Konnichiwa, and welcome to the Samurai Way, the podcast where we dive into the wisdom of the samurai, the art of Japanese living, and the philosophies that help us live with purpose and perseverance. I'm Lori Tsugawa, and whether you're here to explore Bushido, the samurai, uncover the meaning of Ikigai, or just looking for a little extra ganbaru, never give up spirit in your daily life, you're in the right place. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's walk this path together. Are you ready? Let's begin. Konnichiwa. Hello, everyone. I am so glad to be here on the Samurai Way podcast. And today we have a special guest. Oh, actually, all my guests are special, but we have Jolene Jang with us, and she has really an amazing, interesting story. She was a very successful speaker, and has done so many things in her life, and you're going to want to listen to what she has to say. Cultural explorer, show host, very accomplished, successful speaker, and she helps employers learn about the Asian American cultures and why it matters. So without further ado, please help me welcome Jolene Jang.
Well, thank you. Hopefully I live up to the expectations. I appreciate that. As a Japanese, Chinese, Swedish American, I do spotlight myself because I'm fourth generation in America, but the Japanese side says, "Oh no, stop." So I am ethnically Japanese, Chinese, and Swedish, and culturally Japanese American because my family that I'm familiar with here is Japanese American. So I am 51 years old. For those of you who can't see me or maybe not can't see my wrinkles quite with this. So, and I am non-disabled and broadcasting from Seattle.
Well, that's exciting. And we've never met in person. It's only been through LinkedIn, and I'm so glad I met you and actually had a conversation with you. Thank you so much. And help me focus more. What do I want to do? I really want to focus in on the Japanese side of me. And that's why I'm having this podcast. So if you want to share a bit about your background growing up, that would be fine. And then how you got to back then to where you are now.
I think looking at where I am now is different and the same. So the topic is different. I've always been a curious person and building communities. Usually it's around fun. So my entire life, lots of energy and always bringing people together with fun. And nowadays it was 2021 it's the murder of George Floyd and then all the anti-Asian hate with the Atlanta shootings at the Korean spas that activated my sense of justice. So I took the community building that I've done all of my life and then put it into being an advocate for Asian Americans. Because with all the hate out there, it's so devastating and sad. There's hate for everybody. Because Asians were blamed for bringing COVID, there was just extreme amounts of hate towards Asian. It's still out there. So I felt so compelled to be able to take my public speaking and my community building skills and apply it to that. So if you want to go backwards, Lori, I played a ton of sports. I was very lucky as an Asian American to be able to play all the sports, both in school, out school. My dad coached a lot of the teams, and he never missed a game or a match. Even when I was number 2 in college, he also traveled to different states to see me play. So I come from a lot of privilege. And so, when I meet other Asian American advocates, we're coming from different places because I wasn't teased as a kid, even though I was in white communities in white Bothell. My dad always taught me to fight for justice. And so I was lucky that I wasn't teased. I wasn't beat up. I didn't feel bad about myself. I don't think ever, which I know is unusual. And so having such a privileged life, with all the hate recently, I feel like I need to use that energy now to fight for myself and others, because so many Asian Americans have PTSD and have these visceral feelings because they were picked on and bullied as a kid, that it's really hard for them to now stand up. But I don't have that history. So that's why I'm trying to use my strength now.
Well, that's beautiful because I'm third generation Japanese and I was teased and bullied. In fact, I was punched in the gut so hard that I just about doubled over. And we were the generate war baby boomers right after the war. My parents were the ones that went through the camp. And so I felt that shame but the way they handled it was by not talking about it. They didn't want to talk about it. Don't bring it up. And so it's very, very interesting. But I also am involved with that, with the Japanese Americans and what happened during World War II, which it was illegal. They were put behind bars for no reason, but they went through it with grace and amazing. I just don't know what they did. It's just amazing. I don't know if I could have done what they did. So
Yeah.
very different
Yeah.
backgrounds. I think that's great. So I love the thing about you being in sports and having fun because I watched a few of your videos and it was like, wow, I would like to have been in her training because there's so much fun and you're up there kicking and jumping and having fun. And that's what really resonates with people. I believe that when you do it instead of just sitting and listening and taking notes, that you actually participate in some ways. And that is the Japanese way. They don't teach you. That's not how they teach. They teach by doing. And that's how my parents taught me. Teach by doing.
I want to interject because my brother-in-law, he's a white guy from Knoxville, Tennessee, and he's the one who speaks Japanese, not my sister.
Oh, oh,
So they've lived in Japan for several years, and he works with a lot of Japan is a big client. He's over there a lot, and he was telling us, it's an initiation class. You're hired at a certain time, and that's your class, and you dress up like women to do like a skit, and then you have all these team building things that are very they're almost like drinking games that we would that we would think about here, and it's really unusual, but it's also so bonding. And being a team builder in
uh-huh,
my past, I think I see how valuable that is. And so because I was on those sports teams, um, I actually do a lot of gamifying for my programming now.
uh-huh,
Before it was around fun and team building, working with Fortune 500 companies, tech companies, um, and now it's it's hard to make the topic of including Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders and understand this market, but being able to gamify it, you can make it interactive. It's not like
uh-huh,
it's a bowl of cherries like, "Ah, it's so fun." But it is rather engaging.
uh-huh. And that's, like I said, that's the Japanese way of teaching. And that's also the way that they live in Japan. It's more of a team building, not so much the individual, it's more as a group
Yeah.
mentality. And we're here in the West, or especially in the United States, it's very much the individual.
Yeah, I'm 4th generation, so I'm Yonsei, and I don't speak Japanese. I audited in college, so I have a little bit of vocabulary, and then, I can say, um, you know, pee and poop and and snot and, things that you don't say in English, or food, mama, as a baby, so I have those words and, rice, gohan. So, um so my point here is that I had to learn about my Japanese American history by like recently,
Uh-huh.
because I wasn't taught like the samurai principles, and because I'm Japanese and Chinese and Swedish, I learned what I learned, but I don't know where they came from, and trying to understand what is American and what is Japanese or Chinese, and I don't know have no idea what Swedish is. And so, like, I know that you're constantly learning. my learning has been really the last 4 and 5 years,
Mm,
and trying to get the information, from my alive relatives about the incarceration, um, that's hard, and so, and now I'm curious about it, but it's like, "Oh, but the people who were in it, have passed by now," right? My mom was, in Ontario, so they were one of the 5,000 folks who were not incarcerated.
mhm. Well, that's
I think that's
interesting.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think that's Kelly Goto's, family,
Oh,
or
Kelly's, yes.
some of
Mhm,
her uncles, I think, or so I have yet to talk to her about that to learn more about my family.
mhm. Well, I think you'd enjoy is it your Aunt Patsy's
Mhm.
gatherings? Because each in Japan, they have different kens, which are like states, and they continue to this day. There's about 10 or 12 in the Seattle area, and they get together once or twice a year. And it's really a kind of a bonding thing because when our parents would not talk about it because
Yeah.
that was not allowed. That was like, I had to get rid of everything. They didn't teach me Japanese. So I'm culturally, everything I learned, I had to teach myself or go to classes or something like that. But I was very curious about it.
Lori, I think that's interesting how, Asian Americans now, at least I have seen by talking to hundreds of Asian Americans where they didn't know much about their culture and they're not trying to be Vietnamese or Chinese, or they're not trying to be of the culture. They're trying to assimilate and be as American or as white as possible. And so many of us are now trying to learn about
Mhm.
our past and our ancestors. And I think it's exciting. And there are so many more Asian American authors, and it's more available. Before, I would say like 4 years ago, it was so hard to find information outside of a handful of professors.
Well, that is interesting, and as we get older, I think that happens, and we start going back to
Yeah.
our roots. Like I was just at a memorial, and it seemed like everybody was trying to go back to their roots
Yep.
and reconnect. These were
Yeah.
with a cousin. We called them cousins because the Japanese, a lot of them left without their families. They're the only ones. So they bonded with people in the community, and they became like family. And when I was there at the memorial service, everyone was like family to me because we don't have much of a family here in the United States.
Yeah. Also reminds me of, to go back to a moment ago where you're talking about individual and collective.
Hmm.
I'm competitive, and, being in sports, I've been on 150 sports teams, and Um, and my dad was a number 1 wrestler, and he was great at tennis as well. I was number 1 in, my high school and number 2 in college. And so the idea learning about Japanese culture, and just, like, to not be number and it's not like you're not trying to be number 1. Japanese are competitive too, but the idea, like, I wanna stand out. I was Miss Original in ninth grade, and I always wanted to stand out, and I don't know, I don't think I was confused for the other Asians, but I wanted to stand out, which I think is very different than so many other Asian Americans, and so learning about this, "Keep your heads down,"
Hmm.
like, I know that for other people, but I did not grow up with that, and so that's, um, so interesting to learn about other people's cultures. Well, my culture too, but that's my, heritage, but that's not my personal culture. I'm trying to be out there and be memorable and know my name. So,
Well, I love your name. It's interesting, Jolene Jang. It has a ring to it, and everybody's so different. And what would the world be without people that are individuals? Who wants to blend in with the rest of the people? And I always wanted to be different too, but in a different way. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to dress like everybody else. I didn't want to do what they did. It's like I was pretty much. It's kind of an individual, and I was an art major in college, and so that means that very creative, and I love doing that creative part of me. And this podcast is very creative. I love talking about people and interviewing them and just learning more, because each conversation you have builds upon another and it makes a person richer.
Yeah, I think that also Japanese Americans in Seattle is such a tiny community. And
Yes.
so it is just so tightly knit. And when I see another Japanese American and they're from here, like from Seattle, I'm like, oh, I'm sure my mom knows you, or your mom or your grandma, or and it is very comfortable.
It
Um,
is.
I went to this event the other day at the Gates Foundation, at the Discovery Center. I love the events there. It's always people who I want to be around. And it was for global health, and it was a women's event. And I wore my Aren't Asians All Alike name tag, because that's the name of my podcast and the name of some of my talks, because I want to give people more information and data and stories so they can decide, oh, are all Asians all alike?
No.
And thanks, good Lord. And so there was 2 Asians who walked in and they saw my name tag. They were like laughing. And it was so comforting and easy, like, oh, they understand and I can talk just directly. I don't have to code switch. I can talk about race. And it was just so exciting. And then another 2 Asians walked in and I was like, hey, fellow Asians. And it was the neatest thing because I am not used to being around Asian Americans in person.
Mhm.
Because the events I go to are NPR town halls. They're white hippie, uh, baby boomer
Mhm.
centric, and so it's mostly 95% white and maybe 4% Asian and like one Black person. And so the comfort of being able to be around Asian Americans, it's it's so wild to me and it's so comfortable because I've not been in that community when for most of my life, I'm not just the I maybe there's one of 2, but I'm just not used to seeing more than 1 or 2 Asian Americans together, so I didn't know what that comfort felt like.
Mhm.
As a 51-year-old living in Seattle where there are plenty of Asians, but I
Mhm.
guess not in the spaces that I've been in.
Well, could you share with the audience about the percentage of Asians in America? Because I was stunned when I heard that.
Yeah, so the global majority, as you as you know, people don't know that 60% of the world are Asians.
Mhm.
It's India and China, and in so when people talk about the global majority, I think people don't know Asians. Um, in in America, it's 7.4%, from the last census, Asian Americans. And so when I speak, usually I'm speaking to a corporate audience, from bankers in Wisconsin and Minnesota to pharma companies developing stuff at their labs, because I want them to understand that addressing the Asian American market, whether you like them or not, they've got a lot of money.
That's
And
right.
so with that 7.4% Asian Americans, they hold, or we hold, I wish I held,
Mhm.
$1.3 trillion worth of purchasing power.
Wow.
And so that is twice and thrice of the Black and Hispanic markets, who are much larger. And also the household, Asian American household, is set to spend $1 million more than the average household over a lifetime.
Wow.
And so if companies are deciding to roll back their DEI programs and also not have markets to Asian Americans, well, guess what? If I don't feel like I'm represented at your store, you don't have ads with people who look like me,
Mhm.
you have no employees, no leadership, I don't wanna shop there. And we see that in the protests that are out there now. And so when I speak to companies, hey, you know, do what you want, but your bottom line needs Asian Americans. And
Yes.
that's why Costco is so successful. Like, I speak about Costco all the time. I thought it was just me who loves it. Well, most Asians Asians and Asian Americans love Costco, and they are Costco, at least by the last, I haven't checked in the last 6 months, but they were the top 5th retailer in the world. And there are so many Costcos in
Wow.
Asia. And then the most Costcos, guess where? California, where all the Asians are. And then
Mm,
our state, Washington, it's 5th, has a 5th amount of Costcos. And if you look, like, I went to Linwood, in Greater Seattle, and it's like they have so many different products all the time: bird soup, bird nest soup, and just pineapple cakes and all sorts of things. And if you go to Redmond, where lots of South Asians, Indians live, there's a ton of roti and paneer and all the things. So Costco is really representing, they do have people who look like us, and they're selling to us, and
yes.
they have, and in leadership.
Uh-huh.
And it's like they're making money, honey. So, trying to convey it's about money too. Like, we know companies are after money, but in order to get the money, you need to hire AA NHPIs, and you need to have us in the ads. You need to understand us, and give us the quality and the good deals. So, um, so it's fun. I would say that aspect, the speaking part, is fun because people, white folks are saying, "Oh my goodness, I had no idea." Didn't even see them as a market, did not know how many, did not know. And it's pretty eye-opening that they are not aware of all this information. So so it's satisfying, I will say
So,
that.
so that's why we have you, Jolene, to educate people, because
Yeah.
somebody has to do it, and it's not something that everybody wants to do, and in some ways it's a bit sensitive, I would imagine.
Oh,
Okay.
it's very sensitive.
Hmm.
And with diversity, equity, inclusion, mostly, n- no longer existing except for a handful of companies like Costco,
Hmm.
then diversity, equity, inclusion, it doesn't mean Asian most of the time. It usually, if you're going to have an Asian DEI panel, it's going to be mostly African Americans, maybe a person who identifies as LGBTQIA, but it does not mean Asian. And so, with the with politics all against non-white males, it's very difficult. Um, so, so you're right; it is sensitive, and so in order to be successful when I am hired, it is gamifying, and it's saying, and I'm using, name that tune, I'm using pop culture and Karate Kid, and I'm using these people that people know to talk about Karate Kid and talk about the Japanese guy who was, in all these shows that we know and in MASH, and talk about his story.
Hmm.
And so it's more fun and nostalgic, and then saying, "Yeah, it was fun and it was good. However, look what he had to go through. And this still happens in the workplace right now,
Yes, it
today."
does. It does.
And so bringing it home and how it can affect your friends and your colleagues in the workplace, and it's not your fault. You didn't know it. Your Asian American friends didn't tell you, but now you have resources to be more inclusive and understand when you ask the Asian American in the group to tally up the bill at lunch because you think they're good at math. Oh, that seems really funny, but it just, a thousand cuts. It's not funny to the person receiving that.
Mm-mm.
And so trying to convey, yeah, it it's actually not that funny. And then talking about name pronunciation,
Oh, yeah.
I have a whole program on name pronunciation, and I didn't know how impactful that was, because my name is Jolene. It's a pretty simple name. It's a white name. Dolly Parton sings about it, so nobody screws up my name, just my last name, and it's okay, but I don't deal with it all the time. So I didn't understand how
Mhm.
hurtful it is. So I'm learning just along with all the other non-Asians, like, of some of these microaggressions.
Well, great. Well, you have brought up so many good points and things for us to digest and look into. And I would encourage you, if you don't know Jolene, to go to her website and look at some of her videos or go to YouTube because she's very animated. She looks like it'd be fun to have her as your trainer. And I just want to say, about time to wrap up, but I'd like to know what you have to say to the audience and just share about your big dreams in the future.
Big dreams? I'll
Mhm,
tell you what, Lori, to be able to walk freely by myself and feel safe. Um,
mhm,
I'm an ambitious person, but, I won't share all the negativity, that I digest daily, but I do talk about it on my podcast once in a while because it's important to understand all the hate that's out there and what you can do. And for the audience out there, the more you can learn about stories, the more you can try and connect. It's hard to be in somebody else's shoes, but the more you listen and ask questions, and don't be scared to ask questions,
mhm.
and make mistakes, because we need you out there. Silence is violence, and so please get involved. I also have a Facebook group called Asian Allies you can join, and I share about the news and how it impacts Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders, and victory stories, and so much. And my podcast, Aren't Asians All Alike, on Spotify too.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you, Jolene. And like I said, the time just flies because we interact and we get to have fun. And then also, people are learning a lot because there is so much, like we say, a lot of times I say Asian power because people don't realize that over half the world is Asian. But sometimes in America, you don't feel that because, or I don't feel that because I'm a minority. And so I'm now proud of my background where at one time I just wanted to be anybody but me. But now I love who I am. I love being Japanese and I love going to Japan. I can't wait to go there again, which is in about a week. So just wanted to say thank you for joining us. And please, there's notes in the description, and I'll give you Jolene's address or email address or website, and go look her up and to be part of the Asian inclusion. So we're signing off for now, and we wanted to say bye, mata ne, and thank you, Jolene, for being a wonderful guest.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode, The Samurai Way. I hope you found a little inspiration, a new perspective, or just something to reflect upon as you go about your day. Now remember, the samurai spirit isn't just about history. It's about how you show up, face challenges, and live with purpose. Whether it's Ikigai guiding your path or a little extra Gambaru pushing you forward, keep walking strong. So if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share, or leave a review. It really helps. And if you've got thoughts, questions, or just want to connect, just contact me. So until next time, stay focused, stay determined, and keep living with purpose. Mata ne.